Hello, and welcome back to Goalie Interference. Mike, how are you tonight?
Hi. I'm good. We had a little snow here in St. Louis,
What?
Missouri. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
How
the last
much?
couple days. A dusting. It melted. But
Oh,
you know what?
okay, it's
It's starting
still
to
a
feel like
little.
wintertime. Yeah. And you know what's fun? So we get to talk about a couple games this week, obviously. I had friends of mine from St. Louis. One of the fathers of a girl on my daughter's team was out in Vegas to watch the St. Louis Blues play the Vegas Golden Knights. So he told me all about the game in person.
Which I'm
Which
sure was way different than what it would look like on TV.
Not really.
Not at all.
You know what it did, though, I think from a Blues perspective rather than a VGK perspective. But that was 2 games ago or a game ago. Because we got one from last night that's real fresh in the mind.
We do need to kind of dive into both of them. And I
Yeah.
wonder maybe of all of it, I guess, is kind of
Hey. Can we just say that Eichel had a hat trick in the third period and a field goal from 105,000 feet away?
Did. And then gave the double birds to the entire state of New York, and it was quite glorious. The whole thing was spectacular. I mean, we'll get to that in a little bit. I want to kind of talk about him becoming a huge part of the team on that. But first off, they win 5, they win 9 as a whole, but they win 5 on the road. It's capped off by that spectacular win in Buffalo, a game that certainly had more meaning for the Golden Knights than I think it did for the Sabres. Probably one of the most meaningful regular season games the Golden Knights have played in a long time, come to think of it. They get those 5 wins. They come back. I think the first one you typically can say, time change, coming back, whatever, not that big a deal. You don't play well, you lose the game. It's the next one that then I think kind of cements the fact of how they played in the last one. So I'm talking San Jose game cements the fact of how they played in the St. Louis game. And my question to you is, do you think that we saw kind of overachieving in many ways, I guess I would say, on that road trip? Do you think they earned their 5, and do you think this is just, this is not that big a deal? Or do you think some of the cracks that we saw through the 5 games are starting to actually show up here in these 2 home games?
I haven't seen enough cracks for me to really think that this team's in trouble. Even when you take all the sound bites that Cassidy had afterwards about owning the front of the net and stuff that goes along to that, it wasn't that bad at all, man.
No.
There
were breakdowns that led to the goals. One of them's a penalty kill play. The other one's a 5-on-5. That one, I get why he's pissed off. But no, as a whole, it wasn't like guys are skating down the slot and killing them the whole game. No, not at all.
We'll dig in a little bit deeper, I think, on these in a little bit. That road trip really, you had a wounded team in Washington. Ottawa sucks. You never know what's going to happen in Montreal right now. And they beat Toronto, though, at home. Okay, and in overtime. So that was the one that I went.
Losing a lot of that game, though. It's one of the few you look at that they were actually kind of chasing the game. Toronto's playing good defensively. Yeah.
So I think that, at this stage, this isn't growing pains at all. We're seeing what this team is. This is what we're going to get. And, you're going to have the occasional blown coverage. You're going to have to respond from that, but you're going to have to score goals. And I really am starting to be concerned about 2 areas for this team. I think they grind like crazy. Like, for the most part, man, they really do work hard and work to the system, and it's a veteran team, and you can tell that. Like, there's not these massive mental lapses where they just go missing for 6 minutes.
And when they do, it's like it's not when the game does switch off for them, it's not a complete and utter disaster like we've seen in some of the other teams. It's like it's not quite as buttoned up. It's not quite as execution. It's not an A+ anymore. It doesn't fall off the table. It's not horrible.
I think they tend to look like when they're off their game, which is typical, but they tend to look just kind of mentally tired, and that filters through their body. It filters through their body as well, but it's when they start to tune out to their assignments in their zone, and they start to just, it's like when you're watching TV and you all of a sudden you get like 5 texts and you're watching a show, and then you realize 15 minutes later you've been staring at your phone and you didn't catch anything of what was going on in the show. Like, this happens. Yeah, right.
I do that sometimes. 3 pages later, and I'm like, what did I do in the why am I even here?
So like that happens to me sometimes if I'm trying to listen to a podcast or something. I just zone out and I don't see what's going on, and that's that's what's going to happen with these clubs, with this team. I have two big areas that really like the second periods just haven't been on par. And I'm not sure what the answer is because I think this is a really well conditioned team. Like when they want to skate, they're in pretty good shape.
I have a theory, and
Um,
I'll pitch it to you, but give me the other one
and
first.
and the other one, I took exception to it. Cassidy said afterwards, very quickly, shot down Marshy's assertion that it was the special teams that sunk them. Well, Bruce can be as pissed about that second goal from the slot as he wants,
And he
but
is.
special teams lost that game
Yep.
straight up. And Marshy said it perfectly. Like the power play wasn't any good, but they really lost it, or they really lost it with the power play. Like they allowed one penalty kill goal. Okay, that's going to happen. It wasn't great, but to have three full power plays and just have, I mean, really nothing to show for it
It's
at
an
all.
elite penalty kill, though. I think
Oh,
that
it's
I
good.
think
Oh,
that
hey,
needs
trust
to
me.
be in the
But that's
game. Like,
but you got to be ready for that. Like San Jose was sitting on every high-low bumper play,
yep,
and San Jose, you know, let's flip it to the second unit. Kessel's out there. They know where he's going. They've seen him for 5 years in a row. Like
yep.
he's going to try to go through the slot, get your sticks there. And to David Quinn's credit in San Jose's, I thought their kill was awesome.
They looked
But
well drilled, which is rare for a San Jose team since DeBoer left. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, credit to them, but you got to generate. Like, I got to the point where the only shots were just some floaters from the blue line, hoping you might get a rebound. And you might get those here and there. But that's not the same as zipping that thing around and actually making something happen. So,
I don't think
special teams are kind of a worry.
Yeah, I don't think the power play is at the point where you can expect it to be pretty all the time. And
Right.
to me, having gone through all of what they did on the road, and a lot of it's taking advantage of opportunities that are presented to them. A lot of it's kind of making sure that you're buttoned up in your own zone. It helps you get out to these leads. It's protecting leads. And then even when you do kind of fall down, you still have the push. The first line was really good throughout the entirety of the trip. I thought as we got back home, we started seeing a little bit more of that just generic offense in the, when they had offensive zone time. And we saw it on the power play. You're right. I think a lot of credit has to do to how well San Jose killed. I think they were just spectacular, and there really wasn't a lot there for the Golden Knights to do. But at 5-on-5 is where I was more bothered, is that we felt like most of that game, it was kind of just, I hope they give us a rush chance, and that's how.
There you go, Ken.
Goal, right?
That's the direction I was going to go. Is that during that stretch on the road too? Like, think of how many rush goals. I mean, from the Misfits, especially, even on the kill, right? Like,
did it feel like to you on the road that they were waiting for that, or did you feel like right? No. I thought in the last two home games, I thought like that's what it's been. Like, let's just not make a mistake and wait till they hand us one. Where on the road, I felt like they were a little bit more aggressive to try and seek them out, to take some risks in the neutral zone and make things happen. Maybe I'm wrong there, but that's how I felt watching.
I don't think you're wrong, but they're also. This has been a really busy stretch, and I hate to say they're tired, but it's been busier hockey than they had earlier in the year with the travel built in. So you wonder if they're starting to come down to it. They shouldn't have been lazy against San Jose, though. You should have been fine for that. There's no reason not to
2 days off. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you should be buzzing out there for the whole game. And I actually thought that the Golden Knights for the first period and a half really were the better team. Like, and
certainly the first period,
yeah, no doubt. Like, the Misfits are flying around. Marshy had a couple good chances. You look at the lateral plays that they had on the rush, and but I do think that's when you start to become a defensive team and you're so worried about your assignments in your zone too. Maybe you're not as willing to fly the zone because you get one of those back down your throat, man, and you're going to hear about it. Like, you're seeing this from how. Cassidy, like you said, I'm an in the moment. I think he said I'm an in the moment guy.
Yes,
I think that's what he said. And he is a hard on the sleeve guy right away. Like, he was pissed after that game last night.
And it was mostly directed at one player. It was Theodore.
And that's correct. So, and I mean, I'm still really bullish on this team because of how structured they play most of the time. It's typically big breakdowns. But they've also been healthy, Ken, and we keep saying that it's a big thing for them.
It's kind of amazing to this point. 17 games, they've missed
Yeah.
one game for injury, and it was the very first game that they missed Will Carrier. Other than that, the only guy that's been out of the lineup was Keegan Kolazar with 2 games of illness.
Right. So, you look at teams, look at Columbus, Jesus Christ, like that club's missing half their lineup, more than half their lineup.
Oh, and no Golden Knights fan is going to feel bad for them. They just went through a season that completely basically threw a season in the trash because of it. But to be as healthy as they've been has certainly been beneficial. I guess one of the question to me is continuing to become, are you going to be able to get these are they generating transition chances, or are they waiting for transition chances to generate themselves? Because I feel like in DeBoer's system with this 1-1-3 neutral zone, the whole reason he went to that was so that we can get some odd man rushes here and there. We can force them into getting these opportunities. And then he also liked the high flip out. A lot of times you can win a stick battle in the middle of the ice, and that will generate one. I feel like this system doesn't necessarily generate them outside of the fact that if you just stay consistent the entire game, inevitably they're going to be there for you. But when they're not, and you're not playing teams like maybe St. Louis is getting better. They won again tonight. They're looking better. San Jose's not a good team, right? Like they're not a very good team. You should be able to kind of push them into making some more mistakes. And I just didn't feel that in the last 2 games, where I did feel it a lot more, specifically like the Buffalo game. That's the one that to me was the biggest, clearest one, was like the Golden Knights were taking the game to the Sabres as opposed to just allowing the game to come to themselves and take advantage of the opportunities. I think you could do it against shitty teams. I just don't know that it's going to hold going forward. And as teams get more comfortable in what their systems are and how they want to play, I'm concerned that that's going to become the norm, is that we're sitting here saying, well, it's another one of those games where we're flinging shots from the outside.
Yeah. Well, I mean, keep in mind too, that when they've kind of had a big emotional bounce there too, when you're going into Buffalo. And
no doubt. But that's got to go away after the St. Louis game, right?
Totally. And that's what I mean. Like, you're kind of coming back down to earth. Like, you just finished this trip, you had a big emotional one, and then it's like, oh God, we have to play again.
And you can throw that one in the garbage, right? Like, if that game
that third period, look at Binnington was
And to me, like, that game's easy. Just throw it out, not a big deal. Right. But when you lose the next one and you play it in a similar way, where you're really better than the other team for maybe one period, you don't get a ton out of it, and then the rest of the game, you're not the better team throughout the rest of it. I just think that all of a sudden we're going to end up lumping those 2 games together, where it would have been easy if the Sharks game was a completely different looking game to be, throw that one in the garbage. But now I am starting to see some of the things. I felt like I saw it the same thing in Washington. I felt like I saw it in Toronto, where it is just like it's a belief of what I've been talking about, which is we're going to mess up less than you. And when it doesn't happen, when the other team doesn't mess up, it's like, well, what are we doing out here? We're just waiting for them to mess up. Like, that doesn't work long term, in my opinion.
I'll push back on that. Like, I really think that the best teams, when they have the talent and have the special teams to go along with it, you can absolutely win games like that. But that's where this club isn't there. And I keep waiting for growth on the power play. And if I don't see growth on the power play by Christmas, we know what the power play is. Okay. And I think that's a really wide berth, honestly. And I almost wonder if that's something that Cassidy was a little defensive about when he was asked that question about special teams when Marshy said it. It's power plays his baby.
Question, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is his baby, right? Like, it's got to be great. Well, sometimes you don't have the horses to get that done. Like, if you want to look at one example of how I think the team, though, has at least changed how they approach their aggressiveness in some areas of the ice, you can even look to Mark Stone's stats on takeaways, right? Like, it's not that he's at the bottom of the league or anything. He's still sitting in the top 20. Yeah, 14th. But like, when he's healthy, he's top 3 every year. It's
I guess so. Has it felt like this season he's been a menace defensively? Because I haven't felt it.
No, and that's kind of what I mean. Is it
hasn't been.
Yeah. I feel like it's very much, you're very much within guardrails. Which, again, like I've said, like it really is a system that if you get adequate goaltending on everything from the outside, man, you're great. and you should be fine. And that's another topic altogether. Like
that's right where I wanted to go. But first, okay. I'm going to tell you, before we get your, have they been getting adequate goaltending on the shots from the outside, and then what have they gotten? I wish I had pulled the quote, but I'll give it, kind of a brief run through of what he said. I first want to tell you that the Jimerson Law Firm sponsors every episode of Goalie Interference, including the ones while I'm in Qatar next Tuesday, because we're not doing one on Wednesday because there's a Golden Knights game, and then Thursday is Thanksgiving. So next Tuesday is the next episode of Goalie Interference. The Jimerson Law Firm will sponsor that one, and the following Wednesday while I'm gone, I'm going to try to pop in and find another World Cup jersey to wear during that. But I'll tell you that the Jimerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, got to get back to that. 9 in a row, but then 2 not in the best side. Seek out the Jimerson Law Firm. So, goaltending. 5-game road trip. We weren't exactly enthralled with it. 2 games at home. They lose them both. They're not giving up a ton of goals. They're not giving up a ton of chances. Where are we on goaltending?
I have had largely no problems with Thompson's play at all. The second goal that Cassidy's mad about, I actually didn't like that one because I felt Thompson attacked forward. He went, instead of just protecting the middle of the net, that puck went in right in the middle of the net on the ice. And
I think Cassidy didn't like it either, by the way.
Oh, I agree. I mean, anytime a coach says we didn't get a save, good, bad, whether the coach didn't see a tip, whether aliens landed from outer space and kicked it in. If the coach says we didn't get a save, it means that they're pissed about it. They don't like it.
Yep.
But the thing is, most coaches don't know goaltending, so you kind of have to go with that. But in this case, I didn't like it either because I thought, again, he pushed out towards it rather than just moving to the middle and making a save. But the rest of these goals in that game, I mean, what you're going to fault him for? One goes right off of Martinez, backdoor and in. And then, you're looking at the third goal where Meyer comes to the slot. I'm still not sure that didn't go off Carlson. It's a bang play from the middle. There's just nothing Thompson can do there. So, like, if he makes one more save, where does that put you for the game? Yeah,
overtime.
2-2. Maybe you get a point in overtime. I get that. But I think Reimer made a couple of great saves early in the first, too. So
they had a great stick check, too, that saved a goal.
Yeah. So he's been fine. Hill has been real shaky, though. Like, Hill against St. Louis, I didn't like that game. The sod goal up above his blocker side. You're 6'6", way too deep, not square, and held the blocker up like you couldn't believe that he got beat there. That's a classic sign of a goalie that just is trying to, like, make themselves look like it was a perfect shot. I've been there before. Okay. And that's a stoppable play. And even the mishandle with the puck, like, he's played a lot. You can't just wash that away saying, oh, he's the number 2. He hasn't played much. No, he mishandled the puck and Barbashev pops it in the net, which isn't a surprise, by the way. Like, little funny side note. Basically, every time John Hamm is in the building, John Hamm's from St. Louis. And he's a huge Blues. Yeah, he's a huge Blues fan. Yeah, John grew up with some cash, but he's a huge Blues fan. Every time he's in the building, Barbashev scores. Like, it's a running joke. And it was almost on call. They had him in the booth, and then 2 seconds later he puts it in. Yeah, and then Hill against Montreal. So I think the true colors are kind of coming out there. That can he win you games when the team's good in front of him? Yeah. Is he going to steal a lot? I don't know. With Thompson, I still think Thompson's on the right track because I've actually seen him make some adjustments this year. Like, I don't see him outside of the blue paint very often anymore at all. And that didn't used to be the case. You'd watch practice or a Henderson game, man, and he was attacking, like, going forward 2 feet out of the net, just had to get to everything. So I think that's very, very much in line with Sean Burke being the goalie coach, right? Stay in your crease, use your size. But the habits that Thompson's going to continue to struggle with is that, man, when that shot gets loaded up, does he get low and wide and locked in? And that's something that it's so hard to change that. And if I tried to change that today about how I played, I don't know if I could.
Right.
And, like, even last game, we saw him bat a couple pucks out of the air. He didn't catch. He didn't look particularly on, and he didn't have enough work to really find that flow. So at this stage, I think right now, I still think they can win with Thompson. Absolutely. I think that he's a working And I mean this in a good way, a work in progress, in that he's still really learning how to manage the NHL, and how to manage some different expectations with a coach who I think has probably given him some pretty good advice. So I like that I've seen, some changes there, because I think they're for the better. And I don't think Thompson has been the reason why the team's lost any games so far. Whereas Hill, St. Louis, Montreal, I mean, I think you can win those games.
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
That's where we're at. Yeah. And poor Laurent is cast away.
Good last game. It's good last game. I don't know. I can't say I'm sitting here watching every Henderson game. Good on Bruce Cassidy for streaming it before they went on the ice in the last game. I don't know where they're getting the time to do that, but nonetheless, let's move into second periods, because it's something that I brought up before. I think it's something that is worth keeping our eyes on. I personally do not buy that it's simply game state, that they've been ahead so often, and that's why the second periods have been a problem. I've seen too many examples of it not being the case.
Can I just barge in real quick, because I forgot one thing. There is one thing with Thompson. I'd like to see him be more active as a puck handler. I see too many pucks go around the behind the net that he lets go that are probably 50-50. I think it's taken a little bit of wear and tear on the D. I think it would really – that was something that Fleury did real well, man. And that was a noticeable difference between Flower and Leonard. Leonard's not a good puck handler either. And Thompson is actually pretty good with it. I'd just like to see him have the confidence to get out and do it more and help his D. So that was just one thing I thought of that I forgot to mention.
I'm going to keep an eye on that moving forward. It's not something that I've necessarily noticed. So back to second periods, I asked the question before the St. Louis game about second period, and kind of because, and I'll run the numbers again. On the road trip, 14 high danger chances in the first period, 14 in the third period, and 29 in the second period. So it was more in the second period than the first and third combined. That's a little bit of a problem. Now, they did have some games where the game state did indicate that the other team's going to push back. You're up 5-1 in Ottawa. You're up pretty good in Montreal. You're going to get some pushback. But you've got the game in Toronto. You now have the two games here recently that have been close. Certainly the game in Calgary jumps off the page. I thought the game against Colorado jumped out as well. So there are some, to me, and having really kind of dug into it as much as I possibly can, I honestly think that they're struggling to get a five-man change when they are playing in the second period. I don't think that they're consistently getting five-man changes, because I don't think the puck is coming out as cleanly, and I'm not sure what the reason for why the breakouts aren't as clean, but when they have not been as clean, they're not getting their five-man change, and it's leading to extended zone time or easy entries that are putting them under the cosh a little bit. So that's, and honestly, to be
kind of like when Riley Smith got stuck out for like 2 minutes last game.
Correct. Right? Me, I think it's systematic. I honestly believe that the way that the breakouts are built, the way that they're built to change, the way that the game is built, I don't think that it's going to get all that much better. I think it's something they're going to have to live with. And it's something that I noticed in Boston's numbers as well. Do you agree that it's a systematic issue that the zone defense could lead to tougher second periods?
Well, we've talked about it previously about how you can get hemmed in your zone, and the longer time you have with it, if you're not as aggressive on the puck, that can happen. I don't doubt that at all. I've honestly, Ken, credit to you, I've never looked at statistics like that to really wonder about it that closely. So that's a hell of a job digging on it. But the anecdotal thing from my end is that, in the second period, that extra 15 feet, if you don't get that puck to the red line, you're in one.
Sometimes all the way to the end, to the other side of the glass. Like if sometimes you hit it to the blue line, and these guys have such good stretch passes, it can bite you pretty quick.
It can.
And so they're not having bad changes. Let me throw that out there. It hasn't been bad changes. It's actually been the opposite. They haven't got caught in a bad change in the second period in a while. But it is guys out there for 2 minutes because they can't change.
Right. Yeah. No, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I mean, thinking about it now, how many times we've seen somebody just get stuck. It has happened. It's not as bad as, boy, I'm trying to think the other night. Chicago had two guys in the second period with a 4-minute shift. Caleb Jones, and I can't remember who the other one. Oh,
did that come through?
Yeah. Do you have a little soundboard?
Yeah, I know. I clicked the button, and I don't know. There was some things going behind. Oh, I must have had a podcast.
That was like a radio. That was like a radio show.
Yeah, I do need a
somebody says something and you get the soundbite.
No, I don't know what happened there. Sorry.
But I mean, like but the thing is, I don't think this is really a fault of the system. I think it's just if you're good about it, you're going to get the puck out. In the games that they don't, sometimes you get hemmed in. But second periods are a sore spot for this club. Second periods and power play, that may be what sinks them, man.
Penalty kill. Like that's the one where I always kind of assumed it was going to take a little bit of a step back. I had kind of studied a little bit of how John Stevens likes to run his penalty kills. They're a little bit less aggressive than the DeBoer.
It's a little passive for me, actually.
I'll be honest. I sat there today. They ran quite a few power play drills today. I'm talking 20 minutes worth, and it's 5-on-4 full go the entire time. I still can't fully figure out what exactly they're trying to accomplish in their penalty kill, and it just looks ragged to how they're handing off, which guy's going up to challenge the point. It doesn't seem like they're fully aware of where the soft spot is that they want to give up. I then asked that question post-game or post-practice, and the answer that Cassidy gave was like, well, when we play Buffalo, we don't really want to give up that elbow shot. When we play somebody like a Toronto, we don't want to give it up. But then most of the time, we have to focus on ourselves. And I feel like it's been a little too fluid to this point where it's like, today we want to do this, tomorrow we don't. They don't really seem comfortable in it at all. Challenging entries is fine. They're 1-3 setup on challenging entries. I'm good with that. It's been perfectly fine. They're breaking out from whatever. It's when it's in zone, it's this, it morphs from like a 1-1-2 back to a 2-4. They actually were running a 1-2-1 at one point where Haig was in front of the goal by himself, and I didn't fully understand what that was. Gave up a tic-tac-toe goal to Kessel, Waugh, and Carlson in practice. But like, it just doesn't seem like there's a clear, cohesive idea of what they're trying to do on that kill. And we're 17 games in with full health and a lot of the same penalty killers the entire time. That's a concern to me because it's probably not going to be under 70% or under 80% for most of the year. But if you're operating at 81% in the playoffs, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's true. And it's passive. I mean, I've watched them go through a couple of them where, I mean, do the forwards still trigger on things out towards the tops of the circles? Yes, they will. But certainly you really,
high slot.
Yeah, high slot. But I think you kind of got to build this around your goaltender also.
Is there an argument that they're doing the opposite?
That's what I was trying to say, basically.
Yeah.
If I got Logan Thompson in the net and he's hanging out pretty much on the goal line and he's got hands like he does, dude, I would trust him to save one-timers all day from the outside flanks if you can manage to get out. If that's what you're willing to give up, as long as that pass isn't more than 20 feet,
right,
I would trust him to make those saves. When things start to go through the middle, that's when everybody gets in trouble. And that's where we've seen like kind of this half-ass trigger. Like it's not
right.
It's like that's only it's half-assed.
It's important to note, like it's clearly
I'm gonna go, but I can't get out of it. I can't go too far.
And clearly, there's something in the system that's saying we want you to close there, but not a full go close. Like I'm not sitting here saying I think penalty killers are being lazy or not doing it.
Not saying that at all.
I don't fully understand when they're supposed to attack, when they're supposed to close, what the triggers are, and why some of the triggers seem slow. That's the part I don't get yet.
Well, I mean, to me, it's basically unless the puck is contested in the corners, you're more or less staying within the box. You know,
unless the puck goes up to the high slot. If it goes up to the high slot, then one forward comes out and the other one files in behind them, which I don't understand. It's take away that shot. They don't want high tips, I guess, was what it is. Now we got four bodies in the way, but it just hands the pass down to the elbow.
I got to clip some of these power plays and try to find exactly what you're talking about there. Cause the ones I've seen where they kind of get in the box, it just turns into a passive forward up top. And then at that point, you're really hoping for D to block shots on occasion too. Like they're still blocking a lot of shots.
And I think that's part of the plan of what they're trying to do. What I'm saying is when the puck is in one of the circles and comes back up to the high slot to the defenseman, one forward goes out to challenge him and another one comes in right behind him. And they end up with what's effectively like this and then two behind them.
They're in like a big like triangular
it's 1-1-2. It's one guy, and then two. And there's no way. The good news is, like, I can't remember the last time they've passed the puck out to the high slot and a guy just rips one. So that's just not happening. And that's because you would never take that shot. So I think there is a belief of, like, we may get beat on tips from the low slot, mid slot, from these shots from up top. They're not really allowing that. And pretty much everyone in the NHL is now kind of abandoned the two guys out at the point. No, you get the puck, you get it into the middle, and then you make your decision from there. Everyone's doing that. That's what's kind of happening. And again, the problem is then when the puck goes to their supposed soft spot, which is in the circle, it's like you said, the half-ass trigger. And I don't fully get what the whole plan is yet. And I think the results have bore that out, that they haven't been great.
No, it hasn't. And so, are they going to change that though? They're probably not. And that's where and it's not a personnel thing, because we've seen it before.
You don't see teams flip their penalty kill system 20 games in very often. It's fairly rare. Like, it's unlikely.
Right. So it's kind of like power play. You're hoping for better. And we'll see.
Power play, I think
personnel to do it.
I think they could switch some units. I'm ready to see.
Are you surprised Eichels? Are you surprised Eichels in the first grouping on the kill?
No.
I mean, he skates so well.
Yeah, I don't mind him on the kill. I think the biggest part of the kill is, like, you have to be 100% engaged defensively when you're killing a penalty. There's no way around it, and so you're getting that. And then with his skill, his skating, his stick is long. It's dangerous. Like, it's good. He doesn't get shorthanded chances, though. Do you remember a shorthanded chance?
No, I don't. I mean, well, he had one early, I guess, against San Jose. He drove the net. I think he picked up the ball and skated end to end.
I think he drew a penalty. Yeah, he's had a couple where he gets it kind of coming through the neutral zone. There's one guy back, and then he kind of just attacks, and it's whether that guy can defend him or not. Typically, they can, but for the most part, he's not Smith and Carlson, who get a chance every single time you make any little mistake, and they're not half-ass triggering. They attack the opportunity to get the puck out. They've been fantastic.
Yep, I agree. I mean, they always are. I mean, part of that, I'm watching it go now. So I pulled up one of the clips of a power penalty kill just to kind of give it an idea. Part of it is that the high forward has the leniency to do the windshield wiper across the top as the play moves.
Right.
And in doing that, you're really just trying to force the play to go where you want it to. And that's when it does turn into, like you were saying, kind of that one. But essentially, it's a box formation. Essentially, that's more when things are in motion. He just
has more freedom to go one way or the other. But the fact that there is a high forward rather than not just they're two equal, then that would lean me to say that there's a different line there, that he has a different role than the other forward.
Yeah, I agree. So, what do you think? What do you think about? I just want to ask you real quick. I mean, I thought Cotter was really good the first game, but last game against San Jose, man, he didn't have a good start to it at all.
No.
Not just ending up in the box, but really forcing plays, tried to skate it through three San Jose players through center ice at one time, forced another pass in the offensive zone. I'm not sure if the maturity, and I don't mean, I hate when people hear this and they're like, oh, he's not mature. I'm like, no, the maturity of his game. This is the conundrum you run into, right? How do you become a mature NHL player? You got to play games.
Experience, yeah.
Yeah. Well, how do you get experience if you're not playing? So I think that
the situation makes it tough on him too. Like, you're in the lineup and then you come out and now you're finally getting your chance to go back in, and you want to be able to show what you have. You can't just play a simple game. And then the other thing is the line that he's on. There's no cohesion there at all. And I don't fully understand what the plan of that line is either. And I don't think anyone does, which is fine. It's a roster construction issue.
They're there.
More so than anything else.
There for what they are. I mean, Cassidy said that Howden just hasn't finished. I don't feel like he's generated much anyway, man. And this isn't a knock on him, but this is the Brett Howden I remembered from New York Rangers. And from when he came to us in Syracuse, I remembered a pretty responsible, good player that I didn't think had a lot of top-end offensive skill.
He'll drive the net, though.
Oh, hell yeah, which I love, and that's great. But I think that last year he was a classic case of a DeBoer inflation, with your point totals and the fact that he had to play because nobody else was available.
Until you hurt.
Yeah. And so now that you're kind of back to reality, I think this is what you see. And, Phil's doing Phil. He's, Phil makes you come out of your seat once or twice a game. It's usually enough to remember that Phil's in the game 5-on-5. And then you see him go way below a goal line or something, and you go, oh, he is still in this game. So I will say this, that they haven't at least been a black hole defensively.
No, hasn't been horrible.
And that was honestly my worry, is you bring Phil in and it's going to be like, oh man, whatever line he's on is going to just be horrible.
Yeah, it hasn't been that bad at all.
No, it's been, listen, they've been serviceable when they've been on the ice. They have not been a detriment at all.
No.
And I still think that, they may blow up the PP and put, who knows? Kessel may end up out there with Eichel and Stone and Petro for all we know at some point if it doesn't work.
I could see it happening fairly soon. Like maybe one more game of struggle, I could see there being a change. I'd like to see Martinez get a shot.
I'd like to see that big one-timer tickling the scoreboard again, man. He's been a little bit more active.
Last game, oh my goodness, he's everywhere. Last game, and I think that was a conscious effort, and I believe it was probably when Erik Karlsson was on the ice. I'd have to go back and actually watch the game, but I think that and I said that as if I didn't watch the game the first time. I'm now realizing I did watch. I was there. I was looking right at it the entire game. If I were to watch the game again and focus exactly on why
we're in the game again,
I feel as though this is what I would find. I think that this is a piece that I do believe we're seeing more in the Cassidy era than we did in certainly the Gallant era, and maybe more than the DeBoer era, which is that there are certain aspects of the game that they're looking for. Here's what we want to do when we get this situation. I want this guy active or that guy active or whatever it happens to be. And I thought that was one last night, which is that they saw opportunities to get him activated, get him in the offense, and have a forward down low with a defenseman kind of just standing up at the blue line. Didn't end up amounting to anything, but I did like seeing that wrinkle in the offense.
This team's better when Alec Martinez is involved.
Yep.
I really believe that. And he's got such a burden on his plate with all the shot blocking and the hard work he has to do, and the fact that he plays with Petro, and Petro is –
I want him switched.
Petro will go down that ice, man. And
I want him playing with Theodore. I'm officially there to the point where I'm saying that's the better move, at least for now.
I wouldn't mind seeing it. We've seen it before. We know that. But I do think about those games where Petro's just kind of gotten in trouble diving down and doing it. That's Braden McNabb covers that up. Martinez can cover that up pretty well. No problem.
I think McNabb covers it up even better.
I think just because he's rangier, he's a big man.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have and let's face it, he doesn't have those same offensive instincts. There's times where both,
but I don't know that you necessarily need them. Where I think sometimes with Theodore, you can utilize, he walks the line, you can get a guy up active at that point, and you can use a little bit more offensive instincts. You've actually seen McNabb had a bunch of chances early in the season, and I think some of those go in if they're on Martinez's stick as opposed to Theodore's.
He's got a better scoring ability, Martinez. Well, maybe not over Theodore. Martinez
over McNabb, I'm saying.
McNabb, yeah. You said Theodore, so that caught me off guard.
No, I'm saying Theodore's generating chances that end up on McNabb's stick. I think Martinez has a better chance to finish those than McNabb would have.
Yeah, and you know what though? From the offensive standpoint, I thought Haig was pretty noticeable last night again too. I have to be reminded sometimes what his natural instincts are with the puck, that they're actually pretty good. He really wants to get it to the net.
Get good hands.
He is pretty, for a big guy with a huge stick and rangy. We've talked about it. He gets the puck there. And it's funny because I talk to people around the league and they're like, man, that 5'6", White Cloud Haig, is it really that good? And I'm like, I think that might be narrative at this stage, but yeah, they're pretty good, man. Because
they're good. They're certainly not bad. It's certainly in no way are you circling that. There's our opportunity to take advantage of that team. It's not that.
There are teams in the NHL that you look at their defense.
For sure. Go, they do it every night. They walk down the press box and they hand us a sheet with the lineups on it, and I immediately flip it over to the other team and I look at them and I'm like, woo.
When teams say that the Golden Knights are deep, they mean it really from the defensive core on out. That's what they mean. And believe it or not, Ken, they do think that this team is deep. And
The
reason
healthy team is fairly deep.
it is.
The healthy 18, and I think you could probably throw in a 19th if you consider a Matteo, is fine. It's when you start getting beyond that, are they going to be able to do what a Colorado is able to do, where they lose one of their best players for months and they're able to survive? Boston lost multiple of their best players for months. They're able to survive. Let me ask you a question as I'll bring Jason in a second, something we kind of talked about on the podcast that I'm interested in your opinion. So if you were to look at 17 games, let's kind of maybe drill it down to the last 7 a little bit more, because we have been over the first group of 12 there or 10 for a while. Let's get down to these last 7. What are the Golden Knights best at right now? Like what do you feel they're the best at? And inside of that, what are they doing that's replicable for the rest of the season?
I believe that they are truly the best at defending in their zone, and that's what we've seen be different this year. In terms of packing the middle of the ice, those shot maps are real. If you look at the shot map overlays of the Golden Knights versus most teams in the league, there is not much happening in the home plate area, in the slot area. It's made life easier for the goalies than it's been in a while. And it hasn't been catastrophic. They're not giving up a lot of odd man rushes. Like that, to me, that neutral zone has really done a good job at preventing that style of play. Because to me, that's always my metric. Like I can always tell you whether a team's playing good or bad based on odd man rushes that you're giving up. And a good example was the St. Louis game, man. Look at Riley Smith's goal. Okay, so it was. I'm trying to think of who had the breakaway right before Riley Smith scored that. It was a clean breakaway.
I can't. Stevenson?
It may have been forehand, backhand. He makes a save. Whoever it was, it may have even been on the kill. Was it Shorty? It was a Shorty, I think. But one rush, screw up on the wall, kick it up the middle. Second rush in a row. Like St. Louis gives up a lot of those. They are not a tight team defensively. I think that's what Vegas is best at. I think they're very disciplined too. Like look how little they've been in the box.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, man. Like
yeah, for sure.
But it also does show that you're not that aggressive.
And does that bleed into offense?
And that was what I believe is the case, is that you can absolutely stay away from being so aggressive that you end up in the penalty box. But how many times are you going to get the puck in that scenario? There's a really fine line there, and you see it. Like, I'm going to pull it up here because I'm curious to see who the other teams are. I know from hearing it that the Golden Knights are one of the least penalized teams in the league.
Mm-hmm. I don't know the exact number, but yeah, they're definitely they're among them, and they're drawing a little bit more than they were in the past. I still don't think it's something that has been fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm going to look this one up here just to check, PIMs per game. Minnesota sucks at it. Vegas is the least penalized. St. Louis Blues are right there as well. Columbus. Okay, so you actually have some pretty bad teams at the bottom here. You've got St. Louis, Columbus, Winnipeg's there. They're not bad. They're just disciplined. Buffalo, Detroit. These teams, San Jose,
mostly looser teams for the most part.
Yeah, it's a little bit all over the place, but. In any case, I think though that it is kind of just indicative that this isn't as aggressive of a team as we've seen in the past. And listen, if you play, I used to always think this when I was playing pro, that you should probably get into one fight a year if you're playing hard, and that's changed by today's standard.
Do they have one?
That's a good question. Who has?
No, I don't know that they have a true fight yet.
They have to. Somebody has to. I
feel like there's been a 5-minute major call or a 5-minute penalty called, but I don't know of a true stand there, play the music, the fight. That I don't think there's been a fight.
They have one major penalty this year. They have one major penalty.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what that may have been.
I think it was a fight somewhere where they kind of just threw their gloves on the ground. I want to say it was a quick scrap behind the goal.
There it is, White Cloud in the chat there. We thank you very much. Yeah, White Cloud did have a fight. So, Oh, and by the way, in the chat, I just noticed this one too. Cody C asked if it's been asked, but why do players that have played in the AHL call it especially the American Hockey League instead of AHL? You know what? We actually call it the A. Most people will really just say, I had to go down to the A.
But there is a lot of American Hockey League.
Mm-hmm.
You've done it.
I think, yeah. Well, and I think it's just the vernacular. People still say the East Coast Hockey League, even though that league is not the East Coast Hockey League.
The ECHL, yeah.
It is the ECHL, and it drives me crazy because it's been like that for 20 years.
Doesn't mean anything.
People still make that error on air all
Would you rather they changed it to like we could go true soccer style where the first league is the Premier League and the second league is the Championship? Would you enjoy the ECHL being called the Championship?
They have the Championship. They've actually wanted to rebrand that league for years, especially when they took in the Western Professional Hockey League and then the Central Hockey League and became nationwide. The problem it's been is they haven't been able to settle on what it would be, and they have a whole lot of brand equity built up in being ECHL. So they just have kind of stayed where it is.
All right, let's bring Jason up. I have one that we're following. This kind of came up in our Discord. I'm interested in. Are we ready? I am personally not. I will say that before I get the question out.
I think I have an idea.
The Golden Knights have lost 3 games at home in 8. They have lost just 1 on the road in 9 games now on the road. So last year, home wasn't nearly as good. Certainly down the stretch, they lost some big time games at home. I don't know that I can't remember the last time I've heard someone come in saying it's so loud in there I can't think or anything of that sort. I don't think that that's changed. I'm not saying that from a fan perspective. I'm saying more just they're getting used to it. Other teams are getting used to it. 2-part question. 1, do you buy that they're not as good at home? And if so, is that something that's like roster problem, matchup problem, whatever? What do you want to call it? Do you believe it? First question.
I don't. Really? I think they're fine at home. And let's put the second to last one aside because it was a really tough,
bad situation.
You come back, 13 days, and then you come back and you got to play St. Louis, who's desperate. So,
and by the way, St. Louis wasn't just desperate. St. Louis also had their moms there as the mom's trip.
They won today, mom's trip.
They're 4-0, dude. They've won 4 straight. St. Louis is actually good again right now.
At some point, some team is just going to realize, let's just bring the moms to every single game and playoff games, and they're going to win the cup easily.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
It's the secret sauce.
Yeah, so I think they're fine. And it'll play out over the year where their home record will probably match, I don't know, the last 2 years or actually, I take that back. Not the 56 game schedule.
Won't match that one.
No, but
I think they've already lost more, if I'm not mistaken.
Get out.
I'll look, but I think it's pretty close.
How about you, Mike?
Do you guys from being in the building feel any difference to previous years in terms of the vibe or the noise?
It's hard for me because I've been to all of them, and the pregame show does nothing for me anymore. Literally, I don't even.
It doesn't do anything for the players because they're not out.
And I think it might have at the beginning. I feel
it carried over into the game itself. You think?
But they've been really good in first period, so it's hard to. Yeah. And I'm not blaming it on the pregame show. I just feel like there hasn't been a lot of change in what's going on, and this is gonna sound really dumb, but I'm still bothered by the fact that there's only one chance, that this team only has one chance. The whole in 6 years they have one chant. Go Knights, go! It's the only chant they know. They know shame. But even that's half-assed. It's fuck is that?
This is great.
More. I feel like there could be more.
Yeah, I think you're jealous because other teams, specifically Colorado, you love that the Avalanche.
I like the singing. I don't know. I just feel like how do we go? And can you really be in a game? Can you really be engaged fully if the only thing you know how to say is "Go Knights, go"? I'm not saying that about, but that's the only thing that you can, as a group, they can say. There's no other chance. There's nothing else going on.
Did you guys hear the Devils? Did you guys happen to hear the Devils yesterday? The fan base, what they were screaming?
Sorry, Lindy. They were
Yeah,
apologizing
sorry,
to the head coach. Yeah.
We need something like that, Ken. I'll agree that if they start to come up with clever chants, then yeah, I'm in on that. But for the most part,
Well,
it's just going to be go Knights go.
look at strength of schedule at home. It's actually been pretty tough. I mean, aside from a couple layup shutout games with the Blackhawks and the Ducks, it hasn't been that many easy games at home. I mean, San Jose is one you should have won. Yeah, San Jose and Arizona, you should get both of those. But even Arizona is surprising people right now. So you're kind of – it's been a little bit easier, I think, on the road than at home, but not by a lot. I mean, you got Buffalo when they weren't very good, Ottawa when they weren't good at all, Montreal, like I say, is anything. So, I mean, that can be part of it. And when you're early in the year and you're trying to kind of parcel out reasons as to why you've got a couple more at home or on the road, sometimes it really is just as simple as catching teams at the wrong time.
I finally pulled it up. The Golden Knights were 21-5-2 at home that season.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And what's amazing, that was not the best home record in the division.
Teams don't come in and get absolutely pickled anymore either. Teams don't stay at the casinos. Not that that matters a ton.
So maybe we need to start doing that. So maybe this is where the fan base can get involved a little bit more, is that we need to offer more nightlife to the opposing players when they're here. Like, I feel like we've gotten to the point they've done it all. They've done it all. So we need to
that's
come
what
up
it
with
was.
Things like we need
the novelty is worn off.
You bring them down to Area 15 and let them get, the psychedelic shit that's going on down there. Or maybe we can, like, axe throwing would be a good thing to kind of show them what axe throwing is all about. We could
they have that in other cities.
I'm aware, but ours are better. We're better at everything.
What was fun?
Maybe bring them to Chris Angel. That'll bore them to sleep.
I think stripper night would be the best.
I'm in for that. Well,
what was fun for us with the Wranglers years ago is that all the drink tickets, every I think I've told the story before, but every ticket to the game had a drink ticket on the back of it for one free drink at the Mardi Gras bar in New Orleans, or whichever bar I guess you could go to. And back then you had to have a ticket, right? Nothing was digital, so all the tickets that weren't sold, half of them went to our locker room for all of us, and the other half went into the other locker room for the opposing team, and it was waiting when they arrived.
Nice.
Well, you can imagine our home
Let's do that.
Very good. And
there you go. All right, MG. Circa, you're on the jersey. You can't stand the fact that it's on the shoulder of the New Jersey. Everything about the New Jersey is glorious except for Circa on the shoulder. And I saw a kid's jersey that doesn't have Circa on the shoulder, and it's just blank. There's a Golden Knights on one shoulder, and there's nothing on the other shoulder. And I feel like the kid's going to be walking around like this. But it bothers me. Yeah, we need Circa
to come in and do rookie party.
It was
a guarantee you were doing. It was a guarantee you were doing rookie party in Vegas that first year or two.
Let's make that happen.
It was a total runaway, and it was a complete novelty. You had half the guys on your team had never been to Vegas before, Euros and young kids, and it was just a total blowout for these clubs. I was in the league when Vegas was first year, and you're hearing stories of all your friends on other teams, like, "Oh my God, I don't know how we played," and they were all buckled. And now, 2 years later,
so how do we get back to that?
Been there, right? Because all your rookies aren't rookies. You might have 2 or 3 rookies, right? And so I don't think you're going to get back to it. It's turned into, hey, it's still fun to go to Vegas. There's still stuff to do, but it's not quite the same level as it was.
I think we need more free shit. I think we need to offer more stuff. We need options in the locker room. Those pamphlets sometimes you get that show all the things you can do. We need those pamphlets in the away locker room.
Like that set up in the lobby, like the wooden thing.
Yes. And you have all the different ones.
Whale watching. Well,
right.
So I'm going to give guns. So then you got the ones that go when they're flipping the things.
Now that I feel like that's one that the fans should come in, grab a couple of those, find out what rooms they are, and just send them up. That's certainly helpful. That's
something. Sorry, I was going to say that's something that out of town fans have done in the past, where they've called up hotels.
Oh yeah, ring the fire alarm. I actually just read a story in Qatar that outside of the English hotel where the Team England is staying, there are very, very loud grunting camels, and they're having a hard time sleeping. And I'm happy to report that the United States team is staying on a very small man-made island, so there are no grunting camels.
Are we sure they're camels?
I feel like our second game, we're in pretty good shape to maybe win 7 or 8-0.
Well, all they need is some grunting camels.
Yeah, so if we can get some grunting camels down to like right outside of Mandarin Oriental or whatever they call that place now.
Okay.
What is it called
I
now?
know the people that watch Goalie Interference,
Walden.
people that watch and listen to Goalie Interference have been waiting for me to tell some stories.
Here we go. Let's do it.
I'm going to give a quick one here before we wrap on everything.
Does it have grunting camels involved?
Dude, I've never heard of a grunting camel in my life until this show. This is the good stuff you get from it. This is as good as you're going to get out there, folks. This is the real analysis. There was a question from Nick Milberger in the comments asking if goalies hear like all those stupid chants aimed at you. Yeah, you hear them, but you just people chanting it are just idiots. Like, what? Okay, you're chanting, great. Like, I'm gonna feel bad about myself because you're chanting the same thing that everybody else.
That you suck because they're saying it.
Yeah, it's literally like a kid just looking at you and going, "You suck." And
it's even worse that at T-Mobile, it's like only 35 people up in the upper left-hand corner that do it, and everyone else like, stop it.
So, Mike, you had to have, as a kid over the years, done something like that, no?
Yeah. Oh, you think you snuck it?
I gave it to Ed Belfour like you wouldn't believe. It was bad. It was ruthless. But I came to very much appreciate him, and he makes a nice bourbon now. So the story I wanted to tell super quick here is that all those giveaway pamphlets for like escorts and strippers and everything else, the little cards and you know what I mean? You're doing it better than I. You must have a background in handing these things out. But they used to have like full on like brochures and pamphlets that would be in these like newspaper looking dispensers on the streets of Vegas, like on the strip. And it was for all like escorts and call girls and whatever.
Still there. You got to go to the right area.
So I got a friend of mine who my buddy is really religious, and great friend of mine. And full disclosure, like I'm a full on atheist. Like it's not my thing at all. But Kurt and I are great buddies, and it was his birthday, and I'm 23 or 22. It's right out of college, so it's right after we got done. And I thought it would be funny for his birthday to collect every single one of those pamphlets and brochures that I could find. And I'm telling you, I got like a 2-inch stack of these suckers, and I put it in like a big like U.S. Postal Service box. Like you used to have those like $5 flat rate shippers, and I sent it to him. So I sent it to Kurt, and Kurt's got a great sense of humor, man. So like I knew he would love this, even though, it doesn't matter that he was, what his religious leanings were. I knew he'd find this funny. What I didn't take into account is that his girlfriend at the time was going to be in the car when he picked up the package. Ooh. And he was driving, and he goes, "Oh, it's from Mike. Why don't you open it up?" No. and it's full of all that. And like what the point of it is, like, obviously, with him being very religious, he wanted to date somebody who was also very religious, and he had to pull the car over because he was laughing so hard. It ended up getting smoothed out. She was a good sport about it, but he almost drove off the side of the road when he saw what it was. So,
and are they married now?
No. Operation Barbarossa ended, and then he ended up marrying another gal a couple years later that he met on.
I think it's your fault. I think you killed that relationship.
Yeah. Did you send
it wasn't
a
meant
box?
to be. No.
For the new wedding, did you send along a box?
That was the last time that I sent a box full of ads from Vegas, but
maybe I shouldn't have blocked the spam comments we were getting on the YouTube there a little while ago.
Maybe we should do that. Maybe every year we should have a very creative way that somebody can send Mike a box of something Vegas related.
I would like
maybe
that.
maybe not nudie cards, but like something else.
Let me move to another question that was asked by one of our Winnow subscribers. By the way, just sign up for our Winnow. It's good stuff. Text alerts, winnow.app/SinBin, WINNO. This was from Charlie JC. Does Mike think that anybody has sent his rookie card to be graded at PSA?
Ooh, I could check, actually.
I don't know what PSA is.
Jason, explain that, please.
Okay, so Mike, you know how when you see like a baseball card, a hockey card, whatever, right? And then it's in this nice plastic fit form and says on top of it, Yeah,
Okay.
and it will give you a
That's
number.
a nice one, though. That's a gold one. That's a good one.
Well, that gold card would be encased into a professional plastic slab, as they call
Ooh,
it,
nice.
and they would give it a grade up till 10. And so, I mean, that'd be fantastic to
So
know
do
if
you
there
believe
were out there.
That sounds like a really.
Go ahead.
It sounds like a really cool like lamination process.
Yeah. So Jason knows cards fairly well. I guess the question, has anyone ever sent it in? Hard to say. I don't know we're going to know that. Better question to me, do you believe there's a 10 out of 10 Mike McKenna rookie card out there somewhere? Is there a pristine condition McKenna rookie card somewhere on this planet?
Ken,
And
there's
then how to
100%.
rely it?
there's a lot of really big Mike McKenna fans out there.
Are they in this show? Are they watching this show? We need more fans.
No.
Mike,
There's one in Springfield, Illinois.
Do you remember your true rookie,
like your
Mike?
mother?
Your very first rookie card. Do you remember?
I actually don't know.
Is this not it?
That is a variation, I believe. I mean, it's this.
It was definitely with Tampa Bay. I know that because that's where I started, and I didn't expect it at all. So
I paid like $3 for this. It better be legit.
Well, it's now worth $310. So that would have been 2018. That card. That's a much later one. So it would have been one of the Tampa ones. I don't know. I don't really keep like at this stage of the game. I've signed enough of them. I know what's out there, but I don't. I think
that's it.
That could be it. Is that the one that I have the raised eyebrow?
When's the last time you signed an autograph?
Yeah, you have a raised eyebrow. Yeah,
that's actually a great question. It's been a while. It's probably when I was in Vegas for the All-Star game.
I'll make sure the next time you're in town, my kid bugs you for an auto.
It feels so weird that I haven't been there since we're going on like 10 months here. It feels really strange, man.
Yeah, I know. Jimerson brings us to dinner every time you come, and we haven't.
I was going to say,
I don't know what he's waiting for.
Giordano's party should be coming up soon.
Yeah, I feel like we should be taking more advantage of these Jimerson dinners. They are fantastic. There's no doubt about that.
Let's get the youth hockey season over with, and then
I'm telling you,
light it up.
Walks into restaurants and like the chef comes out and knows him. It's phenomenal. The man, he was telling me about his dinner at Alinea in Chicago. The dude's a big time foodie. He's legit.
Jimmer's been to that's Grant Hatch's place in Chicago. That's no joke. Wow.
All right, let me get you the other question from Derek here. Do players have a special attachment to the team that drafted them? For example, is it different for Glass, Suzuki, or Branstrom to play against the Golden Knights? What about a guy that's bounced around, like somebody? I'm trying to think of somebody who's bounced. Well, you're right. And then what about like a Kessel who's played on multiple teams? Does he still get up for the Bruins?
No.
You know what? I think you're probably always going to have an affinity for the team that drafted you, unless it went absolutely haywire. And they
is affinity a good word, or that's a good one?
Okay. Yes. Like unless it really went sideways and they treated you like total shit at some point, I think you'll always feel like I didn't sign with Nashville. You know, I spent 4 years at their development camps. I met people who changed my life for the better. I still have a very soft spot for the Nashville Predators. Like it's still the team that drafted me, even though I was never really there. I played 3 weeks in the American League for their team a couple years later.
But how can Cody Glass at all have strong feelings for this team?
Well, you'll still. It's kind of like that. It's kind of when you like reflect back on things, you have a sentimental look at it. I think later on. But like I say, like he got cast off. Other people have gotten cast off. It's why we become agnostic to being a fan any longer. Like we just don't. I don't have a favorite team. I don't root for a team. I don't have allegiances. And
do you root against?
Oh, for a while, I definitely could. I was hoping absolutely everything in the worst for the Ottawa Senators.
Well, I'm very much you got that. You got that right. I mean,
yeah. Well, and I'm very much past that now because I really hope for that city that, basically now that Melnick's gone, everything's changed. Like, sorry, the rot starts at the top and it's gone now.
So you're a big Ryan Reynolds fan?
Huge. Well, it's just because he looks like me,
That's a good call. He does.
I've honest to God had people tell me like my doppelganger. Like that was a whole thing when I was in Vegas. Like
people tell me that too, that I look like Ryan Reynolds. I've got.
Well, he's like I didn't want to believe it because he's way better looking than I am. But
might look more like McElhenney, actually.
Hey, you guys know how you can fix that one fight this year? Ken's ignoring this question.
Let's hear it.
Ryan Reeves.
What are they going to trade for this bum?
He's essentially out of the loop in New York.
I wonder why.
People would be interested in some. I would assume some teams will be interested.
Oh yeah, he'll get another lease somewhere. This is it. Bring him back.
Ken will do everything possible to make sure it's not in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
He can't even get on the ice. He gets scratched 5 out of 6 games. What are we doing? All right, let's go to. I agree with this. We definitely need Mike at Binball next year. Definitely need to come out for that.
Give me a lowdown on Binball. When and where? What's Binball?
Binball? So Binball is our charity event every year. We raised just short of $15,000 this year, or maybe it was just over $15,000. I forget.
Let's go with the over.
Yeah, let's take the over. We raise a lot of money for Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Southern Nevada. Basically, what it is, we created a game that is a cross between cornhole and beer pong. You throw a ping pong ball 19 feet to try to get it into little holes that are in the shape of a B and an I and an N and a B and an A and 2 L's.
So this is a modified backyard game. I'm all in on
Correct. And there's a 64-team double elimination tournament, although I am looking into potentially changing it to a group stage format next year. We'll see. It's up here.
Yeah, it's percolating. I got you.
Percolating. Yeah. That's the idea. And it's a blast. Everyone dresses up in ridiculous costumes. My brother wore tight pants. There was a problem. He was the Purple Cobras from Dodgeball this year. There was two different Hanson brother teammates. It was good. It's
your old man and Murphy.
Huh?
So when is
Murph
it?
And your dad.
Yeah, my dad, Murph. Yeah, it's usually in like October-ish.
Okay.
Early October. We did it on October 1st this time, so landed on a Saturday. It seemed like a good thing. We had a nice moment of silence on game 58, which was good.
Yeah.
We had done it earlier. I liked it better later, so I would say probably early October is what we'll be looking at.
Yeah, but
let me get to
Mike out there. We're going to have to do it before youth hockey begins.
Yeah.
Well, if we have to move it up, we have
youth
to move
hockey
it
is
up.
done by the beginning of March, so there's our window.
Okay.
Do you have a pick for the World Cup now that I've explained to you some of the teams?
I'm going to root for
Us.
Colombia.
They did not qualify.
So how about the damn it?
I want to see Messi in the final, so I'm going to say Argentina.
Well, that works out for my jersey for today.
How about how's the Spanish club looking?
They're good. They're good. I don't think they're going to get out of the group, but they're good. They should.
I just want to go. You know, there's a dearth of Spanish restaurants in St. Louis. There's not enough. There are hardly any Spanish restaurants. I love Spanish food. So
chicken croquettes, pollo croqueta, phenomenal.
Oh baby, give me all the gin and tonics, man.
I love that.
One of my favorite restaurants in Vegas is Yaleo.
Nick went to Alinea, so that's we all are very jealous of him and spent an extra hour drinking wine, listening to the waitstaff. That sounds fantastic. Is Ryan Reynolds actually going to buy that team? Is that real?
I would bet you anything he's going to end up with a small portion.
No, that's no fun
for it. Well, he doesn't have the cash to buy. Like that team's going to go for 700. Team's going to go for like 700 mil, and he's got about 150 mil. So,
and I think there was like a minimum partner buy-in of like close to 20 million.
He bought
that's what if I had to guess, I would have said 20 mil. So
Foley only paid like 150 for his Premier League team that's going to get relegated.
Yeah, well, my daughter's team got relegated in youth hockey. I know how that goes.
Is that real?
Well, it's actually really smart how they do it out here in Missouri hockey. They have what's called declaration season, and you play anywhere from 4 to 8 games before the regular season starts. It's like a preseason schedule to make sure that your kids are at the right level.
Yeah.
And our kids were not at the right level. So I was very happy about the relegation because now they get to be competitive.
Are there teams in the declaration season throwing games? Because I would coach my team to do that. Like the Spring Valley Yankees would 100% tank for the first 5 games so we could win the ship.
It's crazy, man. Some of these teams have some absolute mutants on their club that do not belong at the level. They're
we're aware as little league baseball coaches ourselves. we played this Braves team there's 7 major leaguers on the team. I'm convinced of it. They're 7 years old. I'm convinced. I guarantee you, there's at least 4 major league players on that team.
I also think some of the managers have been interviewed with some of the AAA teams.
Yeah, they're getting the
major
White
league
Sox
teams.
Job. Yeah, that first baseman, he caught better than me. Kid was unreal.
This is
Very
what the
good.
people want to hear right here, talking all the baseball. World Cup.
People are fans of the Spring Valley Yankees. I have my trophy here.
Guys, what do you think's going to happen against Edmonton? Okay, I'm looking at this week ahead here. What do you think,
Mike? I was just about to ask you actually, because I just I watched the first period of the Edmonton LA game, and okay, which would you rather right now? Would you rather stick to LA as a good playoff team, or Edmonton's goalies can get them to the playoffs? Because I'm watching Edmonton and they have everything except a goalie.
Edmonton has a goalie. His name's Stuart Skinner.
Yeah, he didn't look good on the first goal he gave up.
He's been awesome. I would argue that LA doesn't have the goaltending to go anywhere. And I think it sunk them last year in the first round, and it's going to continue to sink them because neither of those goalies have adapted. So I actually just wrote a piece that was out on Daily Faceoff about Jack Campbell and the struggles. I think that came out Tuesday. He's a mess right now. Like there's a lot wrong with his game. And his confidence level, it's like every goal that goes in looks like he's just in physical pain. And I think it's resonating through his entire team. Like you got to show strength as a goaltender. Like even if you got to, I had a GM, actually it was Julian Brisebois who said this to me after the Lightning traded for me to play in the American League and take him on an American League playoff run. I had a tough couple games when I got traded over. I remember getting off the bus one time and he looks at me and he goes, "Mike, you know what, man? Just fake it until you make it. You're going to be fine. But right now, just fake it for a bit." But it was like a huge vote of confidence. It helped me a bunch. But I don't think either of those clubs are particularly scary because of, right now at least, goaltending. But I really believe that Skinner's pretty good. If Campbell can get it straightened out, he can be really good. But Edmonton's going to be a bear no matter what, I think, to knock them out in playoffs.
Whereas I think the upcoming game, the Golden Knights are going to do well against them because I don't see Edmonton going through a full game without giving up 4 or 5 odd man rushes to the Golden Knights. And if you do that, you're going to pay the price. I do think it's going to be a little bit more of a higher scoring game. I'm interested to see what the matchups look like. Do they continue to lean on Pietrangelo and Martinez to be out there when McDavid's out there? Are they going to give Eichel some of that responsibility? Do they lean more on the misfits? Are they ever going to give the third or fourth line shift one of those shifts to try and steal one? I'm interested to see kind of how all that goes. But
don't you worry about
they win the game? I think they're going to win the next 2. Yeah.
Don't you worry about extended shifts in the second period against McDavid? You guys spend a lot of time in the second period.
It'll be in the back of the net before it's extended.
Yeah, it's the case. To me, that's like, can we get the right guys on the ice and then let's see if they can get a lead? I guess for me, I don't see Edmonton as a team that's going to come in here and play a clean game against the Golden Knights. And if you can't do that, even if it's just for a period, they will bury you. And I think that's what happens. Same thing as tomorrow. I think Arizona, I don't think you play a clean 15 minutes. So
I think they should win tomorrow. I expect them to win tomorrow. And I actually think with everything you're saying about a game against Edmonton's pretty spot on, man. Like that club has been pretty loose. It's not just their goaltending. They don't have the D.
Give up chances.
And so we're really projecting far out. I'm really curious to see how they play against Vancouver because it's going to be a big emotional letdown after Edmonton. They will be absolutely juiced for that game and they will be on heightened alert, and then that'll be over, and then you show up in Van, it's like this team sucks. You just want to get home again. That's going to be a kind of a gut check game, I think.
I think they win all 3 of them. I think they're going to win.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm calling a shutout for tomorrow. I don't think Arizona scores. I don't even think Arizona gets much of a dangerous chance.
I don't know. They chip away and they somehow find a goal or 2, though.
I think Hill does play. I do think that they're kind of leaning towards some of the easier games going to Hill. I think it's pretty clear that starter is Thompson, though.
Yeah. The Thompson's the guy. Yeah.
For now. I don't know how long that's going to last, or if it'll last forever. I am interested to see if Bressois can ever work his way back in, because it's actually now very easy to get him an NHL game. You can paper transaction for one day. Thompson put Bressois in a game. I think they have that ability, but he's got to show a lot more as we go forward. My official pick to win the World Cup is Netherlands. I was a little not happy with Will Carlson today. He told me Brazil or Argentina. I'm like, well, no shit, Will. The best two teams. Like, what do you? Then I made him nail one down.
With Colombia?
He picked Brazil. I mean, Colombia is usually pretty good. They didn't make it, but you got to go with some fun picks. By the way, I noticed this today, and I don't. It's weird. The Golden Knights only have one player on the entire 23-man roster not from North America.
Mm-hmm.
One.
Well, yeah, everybody's from Western Canada.
Like, how does that happen? How does that? And like, I was going around trying to find people who would even care at all about the World Cup, and that was like, that's it, Carlson, and that's it.
It's Western Hockey League graduate school.
That first year was pretty diverse.
Mm-hmm.
They were.
Even the last couple.
Yeah, Finland, France, Czech Republic.
Carlson, Janmark, Leonard. I mean, it is surprising. Typically, teams are really well split. Yeah.
Spiza was Swiss or some sort of Italian or something. That guy was from all over the place. That guy was fantastic. All right.
Spiza.
Tell one more story before we get out of here.
Oh, man. So somebody wanted to hear about missing flights.
Make sure you save a Thanksgiving story for next week.
Yeah, no question.
You got to do a recipe, as you always do every holiday. You got to give out a recipe.
So did I tell the story about the guy that almost missed the flight when we were in St. John's?
I don't think
so.
Okay, so we all went out in St. John's. This is when Leonard and I were on the same team in Binghamton, and this guy named Bartlett, Mike Bartlett, man, we lost him. Like, we had a 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning bus off the Rock in St. John's, and my door starts getting just annihilated, and it's Robin. It's Leonard. He's like,
get up.
And he's going, well, I was awake. It was before my alarm. I was ready to go. But he goes, Godfrey lost his wallet and we can't find Bart's. And he's screaming at me. And I'm like, Letty, dude, first off, like, I guess I'm the guy that everyone trusts here for some reason. But I'm like, let's think about this. Okay, so who's Godfrey's roommate? And so we kind of, he was just freaking out because we thought we lost somebody, right? So we managed to somehow locate Godfrey's wallet. We sent out a search party within the room, and that one turned out okay. But we could not find this Bartlett guy. Like, he was gone. And so we finally got to the point, like, we're getting on the bus, like 5 minutes before it's set to leave, and we're all kind of walking on. And now I said to Landy and everybody else, I'm like, hey, pack his stuff. Let's get it on the bus so he's ready to rock. And so, no problem. Okay, so we all took care of this guy. It was a group effort. We look up from the bus, and this guy comes walking down the street in St. John's. It's freezing cold out. His dress shirt is untucked on one side. He has no tie. His jacket's missing, and his flipper's gone, right? So his fake tooth's gone.
Whoa.
And he just walks right on the bus.
Oh, he must have had a night to remember.
What did he say? Yeah, what was
said
the story?
Said he just fell asleep.
Right. Where?
He fell asleep.
And again, how do we do this to other away players more often here? Oh, so all we need to do is steal their fake tea.
Yeah, you can do the old flipper and a drink trick and all that, but it was crazy.
I love that.
Man.
Yeah,
like,
Nick just
this guy,
brought up.
I love that nickname. This guy was this close to missing a flight, and he would have. We'd given up. Like, we did everything we could. And he just came walking down the street. He
had it
What's
under
the punishment?
The whole way.
I would assume in the A, if you're missing a bus and a plane, you're screwed.
Yeah, there was a guy that missed it. I did not play with him, but it was in Peoria. He missed a flight. And this was the year before I was there. He missed a flight. And, boy, that didn't go over very well.
Does anyone ever miss him in the NHL? Like, ever?
It's happened. I can't remember the last time, but it's happened.
There's a story about Henrik Lundqvist who was told he was supposed to go to one airport, but he didn't read, the email or whatever. And he was at another airport and they were calling him saying, "Hey, we're on the plane. Where are you?" And he was forced to take a helicopter from one airport over to the other.
So I will say this, like when I was with Tampa, the first time I was in the National League, like I hadn't been to training camp. I didn't know anything about travel with it at all. And I showed up for a flight, I don't know, like probably 20 minutes before, because you walk right on the plane, maybe a half hour before. And I thought I was like kind of early. And I think it was the first time. And I got on that plane and everybody was like seated, staring, every eyeball on the plane looking at me.
So what time, how early are you supposed to get there?
Not 20 minutes.
Why not? What are we waiting for? What's the problem?
Listen, I don't know. You just usually show up like 45 ahead, hour, anywhere between a half hour and an hour.
That makes no sense though. If you're told a certain time,
because
I think this is a Canadian thing. Remember, Ken, the time that we were explained about this?
The dumbest thing in the world is the old, if you're not 15 minutes early or 15 minutes late. I'm the person that if there's a time that if the bus leaves at 4:00, the bus leaves at 4. If you get on that if you get on that thing at 3:58, you're on the bus, you're fine. You're pretty stupid for running it that close. You're risking it, but you're on the bus.
We're good.
And I always hated that. In college, it was like this race to get on the bus 20 minutes early to just sit there. And it was so stupid. You could have spent that 15 more minutes or 10 minutes more just sleeping or in your room or whatever.
Yes.
So
how early did you show up to the arena for TV?
About 2 hours.
Yeah, there's a lot of prep that goes into the post game.
Well, and you know what? The prep starts, man, like I know we're running long today, but the TV side was so much fun in that way. I love to do the homework and do the prep because we'd go for the morning skate typically if it was there, and we'd get whatever we needed, right? You talk to players, you'd talk to coaches, you'd get a notebook full of stuff, and you talk to, usually in the morning, I'd call somebody from the other team, whether it was a broadcaster or I'd text with a player that I knew that had either just played that team or was on that team, or like I did my homework. And then I'd get home usually about lunchtime or so and have lunch. And by 2 or 2:30 at that point, at some point we had a call with our producers. So we figured out what our script was, which is called a rundown or a lineup alternatively. And it'd probably take me 2 hours or so to get my notes all set for that, 2.5 maybe, to prep all this stuff out and flesh it out. And then by about 2:30, I'd try to take a nap like I was playing. And I loved it. It was kind of the same routine, and I was always better on air when I had a little nap in the afternoon usually. So yeah, I'd do that. And
you took a nap at the facility?
No, I'd come back home to do all my prep work and stuff. And then I'd leave by,
like in the back,
4:15 or 4:30 or so, depending, and get there about 2 hours ahead or so.
How do I get Jason to do more than like 45 seconds worth of prep for our podcast?
Yeah. I do. What's funny? I do always have like a running list, but like we never we never stay on topic. No, at least sponsored by Jimerson, he keeps us on topic on Goalie.
Yeah, we're not the best with on topic or on time or any.
No.
We start on we go long. It's a real mess. Well, that's it. Again, thanks to the Jimerson Law Firm sponsoring every episode of Goalie Interference. Next week is Tuesday. I will be in Qatar, so we'll see if I make a guest appearance on that show or not. Tuesday next week, Wednesday the following week, I'll be back for the following one. The show goes on, the site goes on just because I'm leaving. Act like I don't know, took a shot to the kneecap and I'm out for 2 weeks. It'll be fine. Everything will be fine.
You must have been on Cassidy's PK, that's why.
Yeah, that's what it was. All right, that's it. Good night, everyone. Thanks again to Mike and Jason. Do some fucking prep work once in your life, huh?
I'll try.
Good night.